¿Qué tal, alumnos? Hoy estudiamos las palabras interrogativas. We're going to be studying question words. And these question words can be found in your book on pages 14 and 15. So, there are several question words that we are going to use in Spanish just as we have in English. So, we're going to go over them. I'm going to say them in Spanish and I'm going to give you an opportunity to repeat after me, just as always. So, the first question word that we have, when we want to ask how, we are going to ask cómo. If you would like to ask which, we will say cuál or cuáles. A little bit later, we're going to review the difference between cuál and cuáles. For now, I just want you to know how to say it. The next question word that we have is what we would use if we wanted to ask how much. If you want to say how much or you want to ask how much, you will say cuánto. You can also say cuánta. If you would like to ask how many, you will say cuántos, or you will say cuántas. If you would like to ask from where, you will ask de dónde. Remember, we used de dónde when we were asking where are you from? ¿De dónde eres? ¿De dónde eres? Okay, if we want to ask simply where, we are going to ask ¿dónde? If you would like to ask why, you will ask ¿por qué? Notice that ¿por qué is two words. If you would like to ask what, you will say ¿qué? And finally, if you would like to ask who, you will say quién, or you can say quiénes. So now that we know what our question words are, let's take a look at them a little more in detail. First of all, there are some very important points that we need to remember as English speakers learning Spanish. In Spanish, we are going to use the question word cuál, which means which, and this is used more frequently in Spanish than it is in English. We are going to use cuál when we are trying to find out someone's name, their address, or their telephone number. So, notice the examples that we have in the book. If you want to ask, what is your name? They say, ¿cuál es tu nombre? When they ask, what is your telephone number? ¿Cuál es tu número de teléfono? And they also have, when you're asking for someone's address, you will say, ¿cuál es tu dirección? Now remember, of course we are saying, what is your name? What is your phone number? What is your address? In Spanish, rather than saying ¿qué?, what, we are going to use ¿cuál? The last example that they have in that section is which ones are your friends. In this instance, of course, cuál does mean which. Which. And so we will say cuáles son tus amigos. Now, notice that we do have this differentiation between cuál and cuáles. If the noun to which we are referring is singular, we will use cuál. However, if the noun to which we are referring is plural, we are going to use the word cuáles, adding that es at the end. There is another question word that behaves the same way as cuál, as far as if we're referring to a singular person or if we're referring to a group of persons. And that question word is quién. If we are referring to a singular person, we're just talking about one individual, we are going to use the word quién. However, if we are referring to a group of persons, we are going to use the question word quiénes, adding that es at the end as well, just as in cuáles. And finally, the last question word group, I guess we can call it, that we are going to study is cuánto. Cuánto, being our base word, is going to mean how much. And there are 4 different variations. We can say cuánto, cuánta, cuántos, or cuántas, meaning how much or how many. It is very important that you know which one of these question words you need to use. If we are referring to a noun that is masculine and singular, we are going to use cuánto. If we are referring to a noun that is feminine and singular, we are going to use cuánta. If we are referring to a noun that is masculine and plural, we will say cuántos. And if we are referring to a noun that is feminine and plural, we will say cuántas. So it is very important that we first determine, based on our sustantivo, based on our noun, is it masculine, is it feminine, and then is it singular or plural. And this will help us determine whether or not we need to use the question word cuánto, cuánta, cuántos, or cuántas. In the book, they give us an example. How many men are in the class? And in Spanish, that would be ¿cuántos hombres hay en la clase? The reason why we are asking the question word ¿cuántos? Is because our sustantivo, our noun, hombres, is masculine and plural. In the next example, how many people are in your family? In Spanish, ¿cuántas personas hay en tu familia? Because our noun, personas, is feminine and plural, we are going to use the question word cuántas. In addition to understanding which question words we need to use, it is very important to notice that all of our question words have accent marks. Yes, you are responsible and you will be held responsible for knowing how to spell these question words properly, including their accent marks. Not incorporating the accent mark when you're trying to ask a question will cause you to end up saying a different word. For example, the question word what, que, with an accent mark, is different from the word que without the accent mark, which ends up meaning that. So, make sure you go back, study your question words. Before we go though, there is one more important fact I would like you to remember, and that is in Spanish, when we are asking a question, and this is going to be the same thing when we are making an exclamation. When we are asking a question, you will notice that there is, just as in English, there is a question mark at the end. However, there is also an upside down question mark at the beginning of the question. Kind of gives you a little heads up that, hey, this is a question. Additionally, just as with questions, when we are making an exclamation or an exclamatory statement, there's going to be an upside down exclamation mark at the beginning and a regular exclamation mark, or the exclamation mark to which we're accustomed in English, at the end. So don't forget, upside down question marks and accent marks. Very important when you are asking questions in Spanish. So please go back, review these questions, make sure you know when to use the proper question words, and until next time, nos vemos!